Hey guys, it's Will here and welcome back to another Path of the Warrior. So for those of you who haven't seen one of these before, granted it has been a while since I've done one, basically I'm trying to get better with my eldar and showcase some of the stuff that I've learnt along the way. So tonight I'm going to be showing you a little bit of a surprising synergy that I've been using with Dark Reapers and Wave Serpents. Two units you wouldn't naturally think as sort of working well together, but you know, one being a infantry based heavy weapons unit and the other being a very mobile transport. But I'm going to show you a few things on how you can use them together to help get the most out, particularly of the Dark Reapers. So here you see my Dark Reapers deployed in the manner that you would naturally think of deploying a squad like this, and the way I was using them for a very long time. So they are set up in a building, they've got a good line of sight from there, they've got +1 to their armour save, so they're packing a 2-up save in there, a good line of sight across the whole battlefield, relatively hard to assault. This would obviously be middle to back of your deployment zone, you know, they're not a frontline unit. They got that long range and they can just stand back and shoot. Problem is, they're a really good unit. And why is that a problem? Because your opponent knows they're a really good unit and will target them with extreme prejudice extremely early on. And what I'm finding, particularly in larger games over 1750 points, there is so much firepower and damage potential on the board in a strong list now. It doesn't matter that these guys are near the back, in cover, wearing decent enough armour. They are going to get targeted and they're going to get destroyed, potentially first turn of the game. Several games I've played sort of near the start of this edition, and while I've been trying to improve with my eldar, my opponent knows how good Reapers are. You know, there's a reason I take 2 squads of them. They are great, and my opponent just targets them and they get blown off the board. So potentially, if you don't get first turn, and to be honest, there's very little you can do these days to reliably get first turn, they're potentially going to be gone before they even get to shoot. So boom, bye bye Reapers, 175 points down the drain without doing anything. And they're not resilient enough to try and sort of claim them as a distraction unit. It's not something like a Wave Serpent where it's relatively cheap for how resilient it is. You know, they're going to go down for not as much effort as you'd want them to. So I needed to come up with a way of protecting them. One thing I tried originally was making use of the fact they can move and fire without penalty, one of the few heavy weapon squads in the game that don't suffer penalty for moving and firing. So I'd try and hide them behind something line of sight blocking and then move them up into position on the first turn. Problem with that is trying to find a bit of line of sight blocking terrain that was big enough to block them completely from my opponent's army, but small enough that I could then get them round to shoot next turn was, yeah, those sort of things are pretty hard to come by. And even then, your opponent's going to come up with a way to attack them from an unexpected angle, whether it's some sort of deep strike, alpha strike shenanigans, or weapons that ignore line of sight. You know, they were just going down too easily. So I needed to come up with a better way to keep these guys alive. And that's where our friend the Wave Serpent comes in. Now this is already a pretty popular choice for Eldar players, especially in this relatively cheap loadout I've got here. 3 shuriken cannons, no other upgrades, 132 points I think. You know, stick of spirit stones on there for another 10 points, 140 odd. You know, just for the resilience and the fire support it provides. Bear in mind you've got the Serpent Shield, which can be offensive or defensive. You know, that in itself is enough for a reason, and then you've got the transport capacity. And yeah, this is a unit you're going to have in your Eldar army anyway in most cases. And not one that you'd normally think of synergizing with Dark Reapers. You know, you think of these guys as not being a unit that's going to move around a lot, they're going to sit at the back, they're going to shoot. Why would you put them in a fast-moving transport skimmer? You know, this thing can potentially go 22 inches in a turn. It's got a serious range on it. You know, why do you need to move them? Well, you don't, but you need to protect them. And this thing offers great protection. 13 wounds, 3 up armour, toughness 7. serpent shields for -1 to the damage roll on the dice coming in, the damage coming in. -1 the damage roll, I mean like -1 to the damage scored. So, you know, this thing is going to take a lot of hits to get down. You're going to need some serious anti-tank fire. It's doable, there's plenty of ways you can kill one, but you're going to have to put a serious concerted effort into that. And then all those long-range anti-tank shots and just high-strength firepower going into this, yeah, it may go down, but then your Reapers are safe, because, you know, that all those shots have already fired into it. And once it blows, they can get out and just hop out 3 inches in any direction, hop into a nearby terrain feature you've cleverly positioned your Wave Serpent next to. And look, they're, you know, they're protected. They've survived the first turn, and now they're ready to hit back. And when they hit back, your opponent will really wish he'd had another way to deal with them, because they do some work. You can also, if you know you get lucky and your Wave Serpent survives, or you know, if you're doing this multiple times, you know, I like to run two squads of these in 2 Wave Serpents. They're unlikely to both get pumped on turn 1. You've got a potential 9-inch move on these, 3-inch disembark, plus another 6-inch movement on top of that, bearing in mind they can still fire their weapons at full effectiveness after moving. You know, you could get, you know, 6 inches along and 3 inches up into a ruin to get a better fire position, and you don't have to tell your opponent which side they're going. You know, well, obviously you do when you move them, but like if you deploy them at the start of the game here, they're going to have 6-inch move either side that they're going to get to. Deploy them in here, not only have you got an extra 3 inches move either side, and got the 6 inches on top, plus the width of the serpent, they can be quite a long way away from where your opponent expected them to be, allowing them to threaten things that he thought maybe were out of sight, or to get away from things that might have been a threat to them, maybe go backwards if there's a combat threat coming towards you, because, you know, that can be 9 inches out the back as well, and they've got the 48-inch range on there, so unlikely to have too much trouble there. Being in the Serpent on turn 1 is also great against assault armies. You know, how many times have you been hit by the jump from orcs? I certainly have learnt to fear it, and there's very little you can do to actually stop a unit getting assaulted by the jump other than bubble wrapping, and Eldar don't have much in the way of good bubble wrapping units. Granted, you can probably screen 1 or 2 units, but you know, you get the jump comes in, or the, you know, big mob boys come in on the jump. They got 9 inches, they'll be 9 inches out from your Wave Serpent, so they may not be able to wrap around as much as they might like, and once they blow it, if they blow it at all, because, you know, that's still a serious bit of tank to get through there, Reapers can just hop out the back. If the Serpent's still alive, it can fly off, and then, yeah, that mob of boys is getting dackered to bits. The other thing is, you don't have to limit the Wave Serpent to just transporting these 5 guys. You've got a transport capacity of 12 models in there, so why not bring along some friends? Dire Avengers. Probably the cheapest troops choice for a min-size unit, 65 points for these guys. Again, they fit very nicely into my Biltan theme, and they do want the transport effect of the Wave Serpent, because unless your opponent's coming to you, they are going to find themselves a little short on targets in range. They've only got an 18-inch range on here. Not terrible, but, you know, it's not the best. They're a unit that totally can benefit from being in here. Not only are they squidgy as a wet paper bag, toughness 3, 4+ save, toughness 3, 4+ save. Very rarely are they actually going to make a 4+. There's going to be heavy bolters hitting them, things like that reducing their save anyway. They love being inside a Wave Serpent. And then when they get out, nice long range forward. I mean, threat out of a Wave Serpent on these guys is 3 + 6 + d6. They're just their movement. Being Eldar, they don't suffer the penalty for advancing with rapid fire weapons, so you can always roll that advance roll, because you're not going to want to charge them, that's for sure. So you're getting, what, 6, 80, potentially 12 inches from the vehicle easily, their 7-inch move, and then a 5 on your run, then another 3 inches. You know, they can be a long way from the vehicle. I'm rambling a bit, but the point is they like being in a Wave Serpent, and as well as just doing their own thing from in there while the Reapers do their thing, you can also use them to protect the Reapers in a couple of ways. Firstly, if the tank gets blown up on the first turn, okay, I have to roll a dice for every model inside, and every roll of a 1, a model dies. Say I roll 2 1s from those 10 dice, well, I'll just take off 2 Dire Avengers. It doesn't specify that you have to roll models individually, from what I understand, so that's fine. I keep my expensive, powerful Reapers alive, and a couple of Avengers sacrifice themselves to protect that unit. You know what? Those are losses I can accept, because I've got at least 3 squads of these in my force. A couple of guys, it's not great to lose them, but it's not the end of the world. Also, if you're playing an opponent who has a very assaulty army, when you do your disembark, whether it's voluntarily because you've survived that first turn, or you took first turn and you're just getting out to shoot, or whether it's involuntarily because you've been assaulted or blown up in general, set these guys up relatively far forward. Obviously this is going to be potentially limited by where your opponent is, but you know, 2-inch coherency apart, a little bit further forward, and get your Reapers and put them 4 or 5 inches behind them. Bear in mind, you can disembark from any point on the vehicle. So say you've got Gene Stealers coming towards you. They're going to want to get into your Reapers and rip them to pieces, because your Reapers are a genuine threat to the Carnifexes that are backing up the Reapers, backing up the Gene Stealers. Well, now you've got your little unit of Dire Avengers, and you know, they're not going to be a barrier to the Gene Stealers in the sense that the Gene Stealers aren't going to be able to get through them, but they're going to be a speed bump. Gene Stealers are going to have to assault these guys, kill them all, which they're going to do. You know, they've got a 3-inch consolidation. Well, if you're a bit over 4 inches back, maybe a bit more if you're worried about wraparound and that, you can you know, you can guarantee the Gene Stealers aren't going to get within an inch of your Avengers, your Reapers. And then next turn, there's a big Gene Stealer unit in the middle of your army. Well, if Farseer snaps on Guide and Doom at the appropriate targets, maybe an accompanying Warlock comes in there and hits Jinx on the Gene Stealers to get rid of that, or to reduce that 5-up invuln to a 6-up invuln. And then suddenly that Gene Stealer unit's disappeared. What have you lost? 65-point Dire Avenger unit. What have you protected? 175 points of Dark Reapers. I think a very good trade-off. So anyway, this has gone on a little bit longer than I thought. Let me know what you think in the comments section. You know, is this something that makes sense? Is this something that you'd do? Is there something you don't understand? Is there something I'm missing? You know, anyway, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.